Hey guys, another day, another dollar. Or should I say another 2 cents? It would seem that Generation Z and Generation Alpha have figured something out. And how did they figure all this out? How did they figure this out? They figured something else out about life. And how did they do that? I guess we would contribute some of this to Generation X and a millennial having some input into that. They raised that generation. How did they do it? And it's actually, you got to go all the way back. Every generation has input into the next generation, into the children that they are raising. So every generation is taking something from the previous, and they're changing. Now, a lot of this will probably come from propaganda, from music, movies, our controlling factions. They love to use media to get our attention and to direct us. But does that have something to do with each generation raising the next? Is Generation X, well, they had a lot of propaganda, but they raised Generation Z and Generation Alpha. So what did they figure out? What is it that I'm talking about? This generation right now, you guys know the idea of working 9 to 5 for pennies is absolutely ridiculous. This generation right now, Generation Z, it knows it doesn't want to be nice to a customer that's going to be yelling at them or putting them down and saying mean things or being rude. And this generation right now, it won't put up with that. And that's something special, because that's real. Because you shouldn't be treated a certain way because someone didn't get their French fries, right? You don't need to be put down because there was a mistake entered into a computer and someone had a delay and now they're going to yell at you because you're incompetent to press a button. It's just this new generation, it's not putting up with that stuff. It won't put up with it. And Generation X and these millennials have something to do with that. They instilled some sort of belief into this generation that Generation X didn't do what this generation is doing. The millennials aren't what this generation is doing. Because Generation X and millennials, whether it was because we were taught by our parents, right? Previous generations raising the next, but the old belief of work super hard, have great integrity and perseverance, and just do your job. If a customer's always right, so you just turn the other cheek, smile, and work your way up the totem pole, and life will be good. And that's how you do it. We were taught that's how you do it, and you're going to do it that way. Your managers and your businesses, that's what it seemed they were looking for. Do your job well, turn the other cheek, customer's always right, listen to your manager, don't talk back. in smile, and we did that. Generation X, millennials, that's the way they do it. I don't know, Generation X, I mean, that was a little goofy generation, so maybe they did it with this condescending smile. But but that's kind of the old way of doing things. Pay your bills, and the electric company can keep raising your bill, right? Not based on how much you actually use, but based on all the taxes they add to it. Having an electrical line to your house tax. There's always so much put onto your bill. It's crazy. But they can keep raising your bill, and the old generation would just complain, right? Do you guys know this? Right? Does that sound familiar? You complain, but you pay it anyways. You don't really do anything about it. Because what can you do? Right? The idea is you're stuck. So you tell your children, you just pay it. And you smile while you pay it. But Generation Z, Generation Alpha, they're looking at it like you're crazy. Like, that's crazy. And they don't want to pay it. It's like I don't know, I think they're trying to figure out a way to not pay. And they just don't, there's just going to be a whole generation that's going to be like, no. That's like a dream come true. Because older generations would have loved to have the guts to say no all at one time. You can't just do it by yourself in your own little house, because you can't do that. But if everyone did it, I mean, they can't come after everybody. But this new generation is figuring out the way of saying no. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to pay that much for my bill. I'm not going to pay that much for a car. Like, they don't even want a new car. They're like, no, I'll take that old car for $6,000, and and we're just gonna live with that, and they'll probably just even live in the car because they're not going to do it. This new generation, they don't want to do it. That's why when you go to the store these days, or you go to a restaurant, like a fast food restaurant, say, it's quick and go. You go in, you just want to get your thing. A mistake is made, you fix it, and this generation now, they don't even smile at you when you walk up. They don't want to really help you. They do it. I'm not saying every young person out there is a non-worker, but they do it because it's their job. But they don't have that over-the-top enthusiasm. They're not enthusiastic about it. They help you, next, bye. And you can't change that, because you try to talk to some of these young people and say, can you smile more? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you maybe make the job look better for the customer? And it's always like, why? Oh, this person didn't even deserve a smile, or this person didn't deserve, like, and it's, I mean, there's some good logic to that. I know. Probably older generations going, no way. These people are supposed to smile and do me the favors. But honestly, think about it. I applaud these guys. I applaud this generation for being so hard-headed and stubborn in their belief. They don't want to do the old world way. They're not going to go work 10-hour days. I don't know, maybe someone out there in the older generation has a fantastic career or has invested in all the right places. Maybe you're out there and you're saying, I only work 8 hours and I make 200 grand a year. I'm good. Okay, well, you're like the select few, because reality is a lot of the old generation, okay, is working and working long hours to make good money. And they're working long hours to make bad money. There is that group. But I'm talking about, let's look at the ones that are well taken care of. Like the Gen X, millennials, they're working 10, 12-hour days to make what was good money. We're saying 6 figures, we'll say. 10 to 12 hours a day. Just to make that 6-figure income to pay for their life, existence. They don't get to see their kids very often. They don't get to see their friends become people from work because they spend all day there, but they don't have much going on outside of it. And it's hustle, 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 because that's the way the old way was taught. And we're not talking the new hustle where it's like have 3 different opportunities that you're making money on. No, we're talking one job, 10, 12 hours a day. It's probably a career they've lost interest in, because that's a whole other topic of how people are losing interest in their jobs and careers and path in life. That's a whole other topic, but that's happening big time. And that kind of correlates with this new generation saying, I'm going to do it differently because that's the way I'm doing it. But to get back to the older generation just hustling for money, what a time waster, right? Anyone who's under 25, say if you're under 25 or you're 25 and under, right? You probably see that. You're probably saying, yeah, 10, 12-hour days are a huge time waster just so I can put a roof over my head and have a car and feed myself, let alone try to have a family and feed them. I don't get to have a life. Your whole life is just your career. That's the old way. The old way was your whole life is your career. You try to raise some kids. It was great when the mother stayed home because at least she could raise the kid. Not like a man couldn't help do that too. So you see, but we've been taught like that's the way you do it. The woman stays home. The man goes and works 10, 12 hours a day. And you raise some kids. Kids complain, I never saw dad. Dad was never around, or he just came home to reprimand me for skipping school or smoking cigarettes. Then we got into the whole flow of the man and woman work, because women wanted a place, not just as a secretary, right? They want to get some management positions and have a career, and they should. We're all people. We want to do stuff. Women want to do stuff. Men want to do. We want to make money. We want to enjoy ourselves. But that was kind of an illusion attached to that, right? There was a catch-22, because now both man and woman worked all day. The kids, Generation X, didn't have parents at home. Latchkey kid. We'd leave in the morning without our parents. We'd come home. Parents wouldn't come home till late in the evening, sometimes late at night. You didn't have parents. I mean, it was really, that was that generation, the freedom you had, but also the fears that came with not having an adult around. So that Generation X growing up and all that freedom is now helping raise this new generation that's saying, we're not going with the flow. Right? And I would bring up propaganda. It's not just parents raising kids and this is how it works. There's propaganda that filters in. It's almost, right, this is the drama of the Matrix. It weasels its little tentacles around everything. And it's creating, it wants the world to go in this direction, is what I'm saying. Can you see what I'm saying? It wouldn't go in this direction unless it wanted it to go this way. So how did it get its little weaselly hands on this? Convincing people that they need something they don't need, holding things back from people. And I'm talking about jobs, and I'm talking about the careers for women. There's never like a gray area for a lot of things in this life. And women need to go and get into that job market back in the 70s and 80s. It was good. But there was a little, where's the gray area? Where's the, it was like almost seemed like it was all or nothing. So the Generation X children kind of missed out. Because there was no gray area to help navigate healthy, or I wouldn't say it was completely unhealthy, but not to support, not to have areas of support for that generation. And then all the music videos came out at the same time. You took both parents out of the house, work all day, and all of a sudden, so perfect, MTV, music, heavy metal, rock, music was changing. There was a whole thing going on at that same time. I'm not saying it's just complete propaganda, but there was something to lead a group of kids into a different way of thinking. So whatever that could be, it did have some effect. And this whole system here has a way of convincing us that we're doing the right thing and we should convince others. It has a way of getting us to police ourselves, so it does less work. It kind of just gets the momentum going, gets it charging, and then we carry the momentum. And then we follow, and then we convince others to follow, and the world changes. How this affects the economy with ourselves. We have both parents working 10, 12-hour days, making decent, what would sound like decent money, but today, that money doesn't hold the same weight. You could go make 6 figures right now. Go make $100,000. If you were by yourself and you made $100,000, you're going to struggle living paycheck to paycheck. If we'll say you wanted a new car, or a car with a car loan attached to it. It could be buy a used car with a car loan. That payment, it's so large. Your mortgage, huge. I mean, your $100,000 doesn't buy you very much, and you have to eat, and you have clothing, and you have your electrical bill, your water, your gas. If you have a mortgage, you have everything that goes with your property and the house, maintenance, new roof, flooring. I mean, this stuff is, and it's all overpriced now. So your money doesn't even get you what it should get you. And this new generation is seeing the Generation X and millennials struggling, making good money and struggling. That generation can see it. This new generation sees it, and they don't want any part of it. They're looking at the older generation like a bunch of schmucks just giving their life away. So I do applaud the new generation for being able to snap out of it. And they're I don't know how extreme they'll go, but sure, some are going to college and they're getting careers and they're going to still help support the infrastructure. But a lot of them, they're checking out. And I kind of applaud the checking out, because the world is not going to change unless they check out. And maybe that's just propaganda talking. Maybe that's what this crazy matrix wants to have happen, and it needs people who think like me saying, good job, guys. But things are changing. So I think it might be good in a way. I think it's sad to see the old world start disappearing. This whole new world is coming up, and the new generation is, I think it's prepared for it. With all the technology that they're involved in, everything's technology, and they're very skilled at it because it's been there since day one. The robotics will take over, so there's not going to be any jobs anyways. And this new generation is saying, I don't want to work anyways because it's wasting my time. They'd rather go work part-time, go live in a van down by the river, and have some fun. Maybe go drive around, go travel. But this is what this new generation is seeing. And it's hard for the old generation to accept it, because we are looking at the new generation as a bunch of sloths. But in reality, that's just the way the world is going to be. It is headed in that direction where everybody's going to be out of a job, and everybody's going to be slothish. Everybody's going to be sitting waiting for a handout from the government. But with all these kids these days, all this new and up and coming social media, and everyone's trying to make a buck, and everybody's got their face on TikTok, and everybody's just having stress and anxiety, and because the world is changing. And this new generation is like the perfect mix of the Gen X, millennial, even boomer, all put into one. It's like they got just this hippie, punk rock, new attitude, and their belief system is just, if I go to work here and it doesn't work out, I leave and I go get a job somewhere else. And if that doesn't work out, I'll do a couple of DoorDash deliveries, make a couple of bucks for gas, get me to my next stop. They're more interested in finding who they are and traveling, and if I do travel, I'll video that, put that up on social media, start a GoFundMe, make a couple of bucks, move on to the next stop. They have such a free attitude of being free and finding themselves. And it's such a great attitude, and it's such a great mix of so many generations. And I think that's something That's changing the playing field. It's a brave new world. Everything's going to be different in the next 20 years. So this new generation, you're ahead of the curve. You're making the change. And I hope it's going to be a change for the good. Thanks.